Welcome everyone. It's just now 11:30 a.m. I think we'll start this session. This session is being recorded. And this session is titled is Starting After-School Programs Quality Matters. The session is from 11:30 until 12:30 today. CEUs are pending for social workers. Our presenters today are Susan Gamble and Lauren Farmer. Both.
I'm Sherry. We're having a little trouble hearing you.
For sure.
Sorry.
So, is this better? Can you hear me? No. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you were a little muted before.
Okay. Welcome everyone. This session is being recorded. This session ends at 12:30 and is entitled Starting After-School Programs Quality Matters. CEUs are pending for social workers. Today our presenters are Susan Gamble and Lauren Farmer from the statewide After-School Network. Susan Gamble is the director of the After-School Network, and then the After-School Network is part of West Virginia University Extension Service. The network works to support the capacity and sustainability of after-schools and summer learning programs across West Virginia. Susan particularly builds partnerships with educational leaders, elected officials, businesses, and other stakeholders to rethink and expand the times and resources for youth to access learning. She was awarded tenure in 2004 and promoted to a full extension professor in 2018 with the West Virginia University. She has a Master of Social Work and Public Administration degrees and a Doctorate of Higher Education from West Virginia University. Outreach and research interests include youth development, after-school literacy, and summer learning. Laura Farmer is new to the statewide after-school network and holds a Master of Arts degree in Urban Studies with a concentration in leadership from Eastern University. She also holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from Sociology from West Virginia University and has been working in after-school programming since 2002 as a director of the Bob Debt program. We would like for you all to sit back and have a great session and learn more about how you can start a high-quality after-school program. We will take questions in the chat or in the Q&A, and we will return to those questions at the end of the session. Thanks, everyone, for attending. Susan?
Hi, everybody. We're so glad to have you with us here this morning. Can everybody hear me okay? If you want to respond in the chat. My apologies, Lauren, who's actually just a room over from me, her camera is working. My camera is not working. So my apologies for that, but at least you get to see Lauren's smiling face with us today. We're excited that you've all joined us today to talk some about after-school programs, and appreciate Sherry being here with us today as our moderator. She's not just our moderator, she's also an after-school expert. So Sherry, if we're missing anything you want to chime in on, you just feel free to do that. To share just a little bit about the After-School Network, our West Virginia statewide After-School Network is housed within the West Virginia University Extension Service. Lauren, if you could go on to the next slide, please. Our network is one of 50 state networks across the country. We are a part of the 50 state network facilitated through the Mott Foundation out of Flint, Michigan. When I said our network is housed within the Extension Service here in West Virginia, other networks are housed within United Ways or other types of nonprofits, but we're all working towards that similar purpose of helping to advocate and promote the importance of high quality after-school programs, after-school and summer programs, and the sustainability of those programs. Really working with a variety of stakeholders such as education leaders and state agencies, businesses, elected officials, and other individuals to help think about to expand the times, places, and resources that students have to learning. Oftentimes whenever I used to talk about that, people would maybe kind of look at me and say, what does that mean? What do you do? But I think especially as a result of the pandemic, it's really brought to light the importance for high quality, safe spaces for our youth to be whenever they're not in school. And especially thinking about during the pandemic, whenever our schools were forced to have to close their doors. We're going to talk some today, but really thinking about those tremendous supports that after school and summer programs were able to provide during the time of COVID, and also thinking about the support they provided to essential workers, and the supports provided to students to help them academically while we were in these different and unusual times. So after school is a term that we call the third space of learning. So of course we know that first space of learning happens at home. The second space of learning happens within school, but we're in that third space, thinking about those hours of before school, after school, summer, weekends. Research actually shows us that kids in 1st through 12th grade spend up to 80% of their time in out of school hours. So it's a tremendous opportunity to support students, support family, and to help provide them an environment and variety of engagements. Our third spaces provide an additional space for learning, promote high levels of student engagement, help students build new skills and help discover passions. Really that opportunity to think about what is it that they really love and enjoy that they're learning in school, and then how can that translate into additional learning, as well as even leading up to a future career choice. Thinking about providing autonomy and choice for the types of activities that they can engage in that interest them most. And then one of the most important things with these spaces are fostering and building relationships. Our programs have really strong relationships with their youth, with caring adults, but also engaging families, schools, communities, and really trying to work together to partner to best serve our youth and families. There's a whole lot of research around after school. We could spend all day just going through research, but a lot of the highlights is that research tells us that youth that are engaged in after school, that they are less likely to engage in risky behaviors. A report actually just came out a couple years ago from Fight Crime, Invest in Kids, that shared around, for youth, that the highest time for them to engage in risky behaviors is that 2 to 6 p.m. And we know that if youth are engaged in a high quality program and a safe space, they're going to be less likely to engage in those risky behaviors. After school is proven to help kids reach their full potential. Really thinking about how after school programs connect to what is happening during the school day and that classroom learning, and can help partner with schools to help build upon that learning that is happening. Also, social and emotional development supports for our youth. Our programs have been very innovative during the pandemic. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that too. But thinking about, opportunities to serve students during times of the day when they may not have typically done that. I know in a previous session we just did this morning, Sherry talked a little bit about, a program that had increased during the pandemic, their supports to high schoolers, and thinking about, typically when we think of after school, we think of 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, but that might not be when those high schoolers were starting their homework. They might not have started homework till 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. and a particular program that she had worked with that identified that providing increased supports for homework help later in the evening was important for families and youth. And also strong connections with families are programs, where if a child comes to school on a bus and then they maybe ride a bus to their after school program, or it might be a community-based program that's housed within a school. So maybe a parent does come to the school to pick their child up after work, but maybe teachers are gone by that point. And so we have a lot of strong connections with families as our programs are interacting daily with families. Our programs do a lot of different things and really have the flexibility and autonomy to create programs that best meet the youth and families and the needs of the community and the schools for what's going on. Our programs across West Virginia, and I was remiss in saying this, I should have said it early on. We have the opportunity that we work with 21st century programs, 21st century community learning centers through the Department of Education, child care centers that are serving school age youth, YMCAs, Boys and Girls Clubs, school-based programs. It might be a YMCA that is housed within a school. It might be a program that was created and is being implemented by the school. At the network, we really strive to partner statewide and learn about all programs that are happening across our state and how to best connect with them. But these programs are doing a variety of things. They're doing hands-on project-based learning, STEM, arts, music, service learning and community partnerships, youth-led learning, social activities, physical activity, career exploration. It can really be anything that, it is that need. We have, I shared in the earlier session about a high school program in Greenbrier County that was entrepreneurship based, and they had the students there participating in a variety of activities. They built guitars and sold them. They fixed cars and sold them. They were connecting with a local culinary group that they were preparing 3-course meals. They said that the students got snacks, but those were not snacks. They were eating, they had a really great meal every day after school. They were doing social and emotional learning supports, credit recovery, a variety of things. And really, if you talk and learn some more about our different programs, which isn't really a focus of this session so much to kind of use some of those different examples, but if you have questions, we would love to connect you and give a variety of things, from everything from programs working with career and technical ed to doing social and emotional learning supports, just a variety of things in order to best meet the youth and families and what's going on there. The Afterschool Alliance does a new report every few years. The last report came out, I want to say November. I don't think it was December of 2020. And it comes out about every 4 to 5 years. We had a little bit of a delay on the last report because of COVID, but it does provide a lot of information around through some parent surveys in terms of what is the need and demand for after school across our country, and also gives us some state level data. I'm going to drop that link to that report in the chat if anybody wants to check it out. There's a lot of information there. And some continued reports are continuing to come out. But what we do know is that despite funding and supports and cooperation and a lot of other pieces, that we know there's still a really large demand for after school in West Virginia, whether that be counties that have a lack of programming or maybe more of our more urban areas that are having problems with wait lists, and that could be in our rural communities too. That there may be programs, but they just don't have enough opportunity to serve all the kids that want to come to after school. And we know, as I talked about through the supports and tremendous pieces with research, that there is so many benefits to having and offering high quality after school programs. I just, before this, was on a call with a new project that I'm working on, and we were, part of my role as part of that project is to really talk about workforce recruitment. It's difficult even to recruit industry to our state, as one of the components that is looked at is, what opportunities are going to be available for families if we want highly skilled workers to come to our state. We've got to have high quality opportunities for their youth, for them to want to bring families here. Also, a need, as we have some gaps in filling our workforce, thinking around the role that after school plays with supporting women wanting to go back to the workforce, where often those childcare roles fall on women, and to have increased opportunities for youth to be in high quality programs, so that we have additional workers that can enter the workforce. So our after school programs provide a lot of supports. We know that after school programs provide a place for kids to be safe, learn, and have fun after the school bell rings. And we know, especially, as a result of COVID, just seeing so many different variety of things that needed and did happen with our programs, providing protective factors, trauma-informed practices, and also really thinking about COVID with the different times that their doors were open, where they may have been, if the program was closed, serving youth virtually to provide additional homework and academic supports, or if it were programs that were open during the day whenever students would typically be in a classroom learning, that they were providing academic supports to youth, trying to help them with homework or help them engage virtually with their teachers, with their classrooms. And really, after school this is an older slide that we have around fostering protective factors and trauma-informed practices, but really even in seeing some enhancements of that since COVID. We know that after school programs provide a caring and supportive mentors, safe spaces to build confidence and a sense of belonging, opportunities to work collaboratively and reach consensus, and a lot of, again, I've said this a good bit around flexibility and autonomy and choice, but also providing a variety of activities that promote problem solving and critical thinking, and really just, again, providing youth that opportunity to take what they're learning during the school day and provide it in a new setting with additional hands-on experiential learning opportunities.
Okay, so I'm going to take over a little bit for now. So Susan talked about there being there'd be 4 people on a waiting list for every child that's in an after-school program in West Virginia. So there is a great need for more programs to serve our kids. And so now we're going to sort of jump into some of the steps that somebody could take in order to start a program. And so what we really recommend is that first, that you assess the needs of the community that you are wanting to start a program. One person can take the lead, but you'll need a collaboration to develop a quality after school program. And to get started, you probably want to organize a task force to conduct a needs assessment. And that task force doesn't need to be huge. It could be 3 to 5 people. And you would use the survey to determine the demand for additional childcare, And in its simplest form, it really determines to what extent is there a need for a service. It also asks what resources are currently available to meet those needs. And then what is the gap between what is needed and what is currently provided. And so you can gather information from the school and community, but really the place that we recommend starting would be with a needs assessment and getting a group of people together to assess the need in the community. Once the task force has really done that assessment and determined that there is a need for additional programs in the community and they want to move forward, then they'll want to sort of expand that task force and to build a bigger planning committee, include more people on that team to help with this task. And the first step would really be, once you get that planning committee together, is to establish your program's mission and vision. You know, what's the purpose of the program? What's the desired outcome? What are you wanting to achieve through this program? And then once you've got your mission and your vision, you'll want to work on your goals and objectives. You know, what are your desired outcomes and how do you know, you're making progress towards those outcomes? You also want to consider, as you're developing your mission, what the developmental needs of school-age children are. And you want to make sure you're planning for a base of warmth and security within the program, and also opportunities to develop their initiative and independence, encourage their creativity, and really set clear limits and expectations for their behavior. After-school programs should provide a balance of academic, recreational, and social activities. However, depending on the needs of the kid, you might want to focus on a certain area. Once you've really established your mission objectives and you have a clear idea of your goals, you're ready to design the actual program. As Susan mentioned before, there are a variety of models for programs. Some programs a lot of programs actually use shared space and are completely portable. Others might have permanent spaces. School-based programs can be operated by the school or also in conjunction with community-based organizations such as WISE, United Way, or nonprofit organizations. They can also happen in child care centers as well. Excuse me. So when you're considering how you want to set up the program, how you want it to be administered, you do want to determine if you want the program to be administered by one agency, such as a community agency, independent nonprofit, a daycare center, or a school. You might also want to administer the program collaboratively. I know, for example, a program that I came from, the Bob Burdette Center, we had one site that we administered collaboratively with the school system. They had funding through Title I, and we had funding through 21st Century Community Learning Centers. And we hired the direct service staff, like the group leaders, while the school provided the tutors and the site director to facilitate the program. And so there are a lot of different ways that you can administer a program. You can be creative, but things to consider when you are planning is that you want to consider at least hiring one full-time person to help coordinate the program. It really does take a lot of time and effort, and having at least one full-time person will really help in building a strong quality program. You also want to hire staff that have prior experience related to childcare and that they have a commitment to school-age children. Some program positions that you might want to consider are the director or coordinator, group leaders, tutors, and volunteers. And depending on who's administering the program, they will need to, there'll need to be a recruitment process, job descriptions, and also training that includes a new staff training and ongoing professional development. And that can be done through the administering organization or collaborative group of organizations, as well as partners can help provide some ongoing training as well for staff. Additional competencies that you want to look for in staff include effective relationship building, because that really is the crux of the program. A good program is just good relationships between the staff and the kids. You also want to be able to hire staff that can provide experiential learning. We really want those hands-on experiences for kids to get them engaged. Also, staff who are able to provide academic supports. That could be tutors, but it could also be lay people who are providing academic supports with homework or tutoring. In addition, you really want to be able to provide people that can provide strong social emotional learning supports as well. Okay. In terms of curriculum, a quality program needs to have a variety of activities that are well planned. And Susan mentioned some of these types of activities earlier, but they do include art, music, science, academic support, recreation, and free time. We want to make sure that the activities are interesting and appropriate for the various age and skill levels of the youth that are being served. And we also want to make sure that students have voice and choice, that they are able to give input in what happens in the program so it's more interesting to them, they're more engaged, and they have greater opportunity for learning. Another key issue to consider is just making sure that the curriculum is on the level of the students' cognitive, social, emotional, and physical developmental stages. All kids develop at different rates, and the challenge of creating an effective curriculum is making sure that those activities can adapt to the different developmental levels of the children being served. If an activity is too easy, then the kid can be left bored. If it's too challenging or too difficult, they might lose self-confidence, become frustrated, and that could also lead to some behavior issues. But you can select an existing curriculum to implement. There are evidence-based programs out there across a variety of subject areas that you can implement. The U.S. Department of Education does have a clearinghouse where you can access some different, evidence-based curriculum. They also have guides for evidence-based practices as well. And you can also go about creating your own content and lesson plans using some of those evidence-based practices, and also keeping in mind some of the things that we've discussed, including making sure that the lessons are developmentally appropriate and that they provide hands-on experiences as well as student voice and choice. Another thing to consider when planning for your program is assessment. You've done some assessment in the formation of the program through the needs assessment, but you also want to do some program assessment and student assessment. In terms of the program assessment, you might want to consider formative assessment and summative assessment. Formative, as you are implementing the program, assessing how it's going and making changes as you go through a continuous improvement process to make sure that you're always implementing best practices and you're improving upon your practice. This could include getting feedback from students in terms of what they enjoy about the program, things they might want to see change about the program. And then in terms of student assessment, you want to consider assessing student attendance, their behavior, as well as course performance. I know in the program that I came from, the Bob Burdette Center, we looked at student attendance both in the school day and after school. Research has shown that after school programs can improve the student's school day attendance. So that might be something that you want to monitor to support the evidence base or the need for your program, as well as behavior. We've talked about the social emotional supports. We can help improve behavior both during the school day and after school. And so working with the school to get some of that information, and then also looking at course performance, looking at the students' report card grades as well as some of their standardized test assessments, just to see, are you moving the needle on their academic progress, and what might you be need to target in order to help them get to the next step. And so quality programs do try to connect with the school day, especially if they're not a part of the school not in the school building, to get some of that information. And usually schools are able to provide that with appropriate parent permission. So connecting with the school to get some of that student assessment data is important. It's also possible to do your own in-house assessment. I know that I've worked with programs who have used some academic assessments within the school program to sort of get a base level of where the kids are performing in math and reading. And then also doing some social emotional skill assessment. I have personally used the Devereaux Student Strengths Assessment with the second step curriculum. There are programs that you can access to help assess student behavior and social emotional skills for learning. You also want to consider budgeting whenever you're planning for your program. You want to consider your startup costs, your operating expenses, and also your operating income. So you want to know what you need for startup and then what you need for daily operation once your program is up and running. Startup costs are generally one-time expenses and can be purchasing equipment, supplies, and also staff salaries for the planning period. You want to consider space costs. Are you getting your space in kind, or are you needing to buy a space or rent a space? Any renovations or repairs that might need to be made to make the space up to code to have students there. That includes, getting with your fire marshal to make sure that the space is safe, and also with your local health department. You might need to look at trainings that you need to implement, what the costs of the trainings are, and planning to get materials and manuals for your staff. Any legal or other professional fees, as you're putting together your handbooks or putting together your student applications, you might want to consult an attorney just to make sure that you have all your bases covered. There might be additional licenses and permits that you might need for your local context. And equipment costs could be administrative. You might need to get some computers, some tablets. They might be activity related, athletic equipment, janitorial costs, and then also just some other general costs, which might include storage. Especially, if you are sharing a space, you might need to buy cabinets and that kind of thing. Operating expenses are expenses for running an ongoing program, which has some stability. These include staff salaries and benefits, ongoing staff development and training, as well as supplies. There's materials that you use up and you might need to replace. You also want to consider utility costs if those aren't provided in kind, insurance, as well as travel and transportation costs, especially if your after school site is not within a school setting, as well as maintenance. And then operating income is the income that you receive through the program. And this could be parental fees. If you are a fee for service program, you might be taking in some fees. Also, you could do fundraising activities, including grant writing if you're a nonprofit, and then in-kind donations such as like space and utilities, or even in-kind donations of materials. Oops, sorry. Let's see, let me go back. Okay. So some funding opportunities that are available, since after-school programs can, have a cost associated with them. Some funding opportunities you might want to look into include 21st Century Community Learning Centers, and actually our moderator is a state coordinator for that program in West Virginia. And so they typically run an annual grant competition, which happens in the spring. And so that is a really great opportunity in West Virginia to fund after-school programs. You might also look at title funding if you're associated with the school. This includes, and Susan, you might want to jump in here, and I can't remember all of the title funding, but I know it's Title I, Is it also Title III and Title IV funding? Do you want to add a little bit to that?
Sure. So opportunities for after school to access some of the title funding has to do with Title I, as Lauren mentioned, also Title II around training supports that are that funding can be is for teacher trainings, but the opportunity to bring after school staff in and also have them participate in trainings alongside teachers through those Title II fundings. And then the Title IV Part A funding is the 21st Century Learning Community Center funding, but there's also opportunity there within ESSA around Title IV Part B, which provides supports for a variety of supports, but especially for after school related to social emotional learning, STEM, and there's some other opportunities there.
Thank you, Susan. You can also look for opportunities through career and technical education. I know that Susan mentioned that there are programs that partner with their CTE programs to provide opportunities for school-aged kids after school. Other funding opportunities include local United Ways or foundations, as well as business. So there are opportunities to access funds for funding after-school programs. And now Susan's going to talk a little bit about some of the American Relief Plan funding that has come through that has been earmarked specifically for after school and summer learning.
So as Lauren shared, there, a variety of ways in which, and there are more too, right? Beyond what Lauren just shared, we just hit some of the highlights there around funding opportunities for after school, but certainly right now with the American Rescue Plan funding, through ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, tremendous opportunities for expansion and supports of after school programs and summer learning programs in West Virginia, as well as tremendous support for school systems to partner with their current community-based programs. These programs have a long history, often within communities, of providing high quality programming efforts. And that opportunity to really partner and leverage funding is tremendous. And I'm not going to dive too deep, but there is at the district level, of course, 20% of the funding to be spent around learning recovery, including after school and summer. And then at the state level, there are set asides for summer and after school programs, as well as learning recovery. And we saw, for example, some of those dollars this summer being distributed through the Summer Soul Grant Program. But we did want to highlight, Lauren, if you go on to that next slide, but we did want to, just kind of talk about that some and think about those because we're in this really unique position right now, right, with all of these dollars, thinking about those opportunities to expand partnerships and capacity, and really, especially with that partnership piece, thinking around, it's tremendous that we have all these dollars right now and supporting youth as we're going trying to work through some recovery with COVID, but also thinking about what happens, when those dollars are gone, and how can we really leverage these partnerships to increase supports and think about, how we help to maintain some of these efforts long term. And that's really going to come through a community partnership opportunity in terms of thinking about, within your communities, bringing a variety of groups to the table on that. So ideas for implementation: creating or increasing access to existing programs for summer, after school, or extended break learning opportunities, partnering with local organizations that provide these programs to offer youth more opportunities to engage and more access to caring adults, provide ongoing sustainable opportunities for small group programming, enrichment, tutoring, life skills, and then, of course, increasing family engagement and empowerment opportunities. As I think I said earlier, there's tremendous opportunities that our after school programs have to engage with families, but it's been for everybody, very challenging with COVID and trying to figure out how we, best serve kids and think about their social and emotional well-being. And our programs are experts at thinking through some of those pieces. And the ESSER funds just provide tremendous opportunity to support partnerships and capacity.
One other thing that you want to consider when you are creating a after-school program is that you will need to register all programs with the West Virginia Department of Health and Human Resources, and they're required to register on an annual basis. However, certain programs are exempt from licensure, and so those can include programs that such as 21st Century Community Centers, or programs that receive grants and are monitored by the Department of Education, or Boys and Girls Clubs. So it is important that if you do start an after-school program, that you're knowledgeable of your requirement to register that program with the West Virginia Department of Health and Human Resources.
So to help support high quality programs here in West Virginia, one of the tools that we heavily utilize is, and to support statewide systems for after school and summer learning programs, is our West Virginia after school program standards. Lauren, if you go on to the next slide. These standards are assist with high quality practice, foster continuous improvement. They are voluntary, but while they are voluntary, they were aligned with the West Virginia out of school time program requirements and the West Virginia child care licensing rules. They're applicable to multi-age groups of children in a variety of settings and based on research and best practices in out of school time programming. These program standards are a tremendous support if you're thinking about developing and administering a program to help think through some of those steps. They're also a great resource if you're applying for grants or you're going to speak with your school system or whoever that may be around development and implementation of after school programs. It's just a great tool to sort of work and think about the different major components with after school. The different sections include administration and management, family and community relations, professionalism and leadership, observation and assessment, child growth and development, environment and curriculum, and health, safety, and nutrition. And I think that a lot of states have after school program standards. Again, in our state, this is voluntary, but another great piece about ours is they provide the direction, but they're not so concrete that they're restrictive. In terms of, well, we have to have X amount of water fountains per child or some of those pieces whenever you're utilizing our program standards. And our standards also come with a self-assessment tool, which provides a comprehensive look at areas of quality. Programs will utilize the tool in different ways, depending on whether you're wanting to do it for your own self-assessment or you're wanting to use it as a training tool for your programs. And then, as I mentioned, engaging stakeholders in conversation around quality and continuous improvement, and really helping to elevate that discussion around the role of after school and how it supports youth. And then before we kind of move on to that, Sherry, thank you so much. Drop the Y for Why website, which is a tremendous free online resource. That is the one that Lauren mentioned a little bit ago through the U.S. Department of Education. Our programs love it. It's got a lot of great things on there. And you know what we don't have in here, Lauren? And I will find it while you're talking and drop it into the chat as well. But is the Mott Foundation has a new app that's free. It's called Mizzen, Mizzen. I'm going to find you that West Virginia site to help direct you to that website. But it's got another great resource that has high quality opportunities there for program engagement. And David says, I have teachers who actually use the Y for Y website. Absolutely. It's a tremendous tool that's heavily utilized.
Okay. So we do have some professional development opportunities coming up. We are partnering with the Bureau for Behavioral Health to implement their Partnership for Success project. And we are going to be offering some free evidence-based curricula and training. We're going to be providing that for the Botman Life Skills training program, as well as the Positive Action training program. And then this fall, October 5th and 6th, we are going to be hosting the West Virginia Afterschool Conference, which will be virtual in conjunction with the 21st Century Community Learning Centers, as well as the Bureau for Children and Families. I believe that's who we're working with. And so those are some upcoming opportunities. Like I said, the Botman Life Skills will be in person, and we have 6 training days. It's only a 1-day training, so you'd only need to attend one of these days. We've got 2 in Kanawha County at the beginning of August, the 4th and 5th. We've also got a training happening in Berkeley County, which will be on the 11th, in Mon County on the 12th, and then Raleigh County on the 17th, and Wayne County on the 18th. And Botman Life Skills is really, it's an evidence-based program, and it focuses on prevention. It is an 8 lessons per grade level. So, and the lessons are 30 to 45 minutes each. So it can be, implemented within a 9-week period, or even more quickly if you do a couple lessons per week. And then the Positive Action, which we're going to be providing the training virtually, will be happening on the 3rd and the 19th for elementary school curriculum, the 10th and the 25th for middle school curriculum, and the 31st for high school curriculum. And that training is really focused on mindset, and it is they are 15-minute lessons, and there are about 140 lessons per grade level. So that's really, implementing it daily for 15 minutes. But if you guys are interested in accessing either of these curriculum or training for them for your program or school, you can contact me. We still have some spots available for training, and we're really trying to increase the capacity of these programs throughout the state. So I'd love to hear from you, and I'll drop my email in the chat when I'm finished talking. But if you are interested, please get in touch with me as soon as possible. We're trying to wrap up our registration and get everything settled so we can order curriculum. So if you are interested, please do get in contact with me as soon as possible.
Lauren, along with your email that I know you're going to share, I'll drop in the Qualtrics link, which will provide participants more information on the life skills and the positive action, as well with those dates and that information there too.
That would be great.
As Lauren said, we're really excited for this opportunity to provide such tremendous support with some evidence-based programming through the grant for Bureau for Behavioral Health. And then also, as we mentioned earlier around those ESSER dollars, supports with evidence-based programming is a requirement. And so these 2 trainings do help to address that requirement with that federal funding. So we're just really excited to be able to offer this in West Virginia, and hope that we might get some more people to participate. I think that was all that Lauren and I had today on our slides. We have listed there for you our contact information. We'd love to hear from you. We do have We're on social media. We're on Twitter and on Facebook. It's written out on Facebook, West Virginia Statewide After School Network. But also we do a STEM newsletter and a regular newsletter. If you have any questions, feel free to email us, or also today, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. We have some more time to answer just a few more questions. And we do appreciate you joining us today. If we don't have any questions, we hope you guys have a great day.
Yeah, thank you, Susan and Lauren, very much for all of your work in putting together this wonderful presentation. For those of you that maybe are in higher education, I saw some of you were mission counselors. You know, there would be a great opportunity to connect with after-school programs to discuss higher education and how students can find their way, especially at-risk students can find their way into academic achievement through colleges. So definitely contact either Susan or Lauren. They can probably perhaps put you in contact with some folks or me that offer after-school programming for high schoolers and middle schoolers. Does anyone have questions? Just, I don't see anything in the Q&A section, and with the chat, I'm not seeing anything either. Any final comments or questions?
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.